Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am thrilled today to have Angela Hollowell here with me in person, which I'm very excited about. She's a visual storyteller, a creative producer. She's the host of Honey and Hustle video podcast. And what I love is her company, Rootful Media, as well. And we're going to get into all this, but I'm going to turn it over to her and let her introduce herself.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so
Yeah.
happy to be here in this incredible space. That introduction was pretty spot on. For those who also don't know, this is a super exclusive. I am starting a new podcast with Castos
Yes.
called Creative Architects. And that will be an interview series featuring stories from creative entrepreneurs that you probably know and love, talking about, their spin on creator education, creative tech, and creative communities. So seeing how we're building the future of the creator economy through these three avenues. So I'm super excited about that. And just as she said, I'm the founder of Rootful Media, which is a digital media production company specifically focusing on documentary filmmaking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I want to hop into Honey and Hustle real quick.
okay.
And I wanted you to set the stage for what exactly you talk about,
Yeah.
who you talk to, because I think what's beautiful is that you've kept it local, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And I just want to be able to set the stage before we go into all of the questions.
Yeah, so Honey and Hustle was not probably, it was my first original project. And I didn't know how powerful that would be until
Yeah.
it was, a season in, a year in, 20 plus guests in. And I was like, okay, this thing has some teeth. Like maybe I should keep going because
Yeah.
it's adding something to my business that I wasn't, aware of.
Yeah.
It's, adding something to me that I wasn't aware
Yeah.
of. It's, sparking creativity in me as a creative outlet. And it is an interview series. It's more of a business podcast where I talk with local entrepreneurs, local nonprofit founders, local creators, just about their business journey, which
Yeah.
sounds really boring on paper, but we have a lot of
No.
fun. We have a lot of laughs. And it's definitely more of like two business friends getting together over
Yeah.
drinks rather than two business
Yeah.
friends getting together in suits for an interview. So
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. No, and I love that because you talk through journeys, and I just want to list off a few episodes real quick. You've talked with Jackie Morin of Wonder Puff, who
Yes.
I've had on here, who is just a magical human being, and I absolutely love her business and what
Yeah.
she's
She's a
created.
literal fairy. Yes.
She is.
Yes.
She is.
Yeah.
And she's turned Wonder Puff into that too, and it's like that's what makes it even more magical.
Yeah.
You've talked with David Meeker, who's partner at Carpenter Development and Trophy Brewing, which absolutely love Trophy Brewing. If you're in the Triangle area, you know
Yeah.
Trophy, you know
Good beer,
Trophy.
good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've talked with Stacey Ramos, who's the founder of Bull City Sweet Shop, and Emily Crookston, Luke Davis, who's the founder of Lion Loft. Incredible business owners and entrepreneurs around here. I want to go into, you label this as a video podcast,
Yeah.
which is a lot of, some people today are like, it's a podcast. Why is it a video podcast? We
Right.
see that all the time.
Right.
Why a video podcast for you?
Yeah. So again, being a filmmaker and being a photographer first,
Yeah.
like I'm just a visual person.
Yep.
And the first podcast slash video podcast that I got introduced to was actually one from Matt Diavella called The Ground Up Show. And so I really was like interested in that format because that's the only way that I have ever consumed podcasts. I'm really not a podcast listener. Like recently, because I've been traveling,
Okay.
I'll listen to some downloaded episodes on Spotify. But for the most part, I'm a video watcher. Like
Okay.
I am a video podcast watcher. And I felt like I could do something special in that space.
Yeah.
And so for a while, I didn't realize it was a podcast. So I didn't put it on streaming. So the audio wasn't available on streaming. It was only available on YouTube and Facebook. So it did take a little bit of a minute for me to wrap my head around, okay, like this can be a multi-purpose situation. I could repurpose it into blogs as I have time. Like it could be something that grows, but always it is a video first podcast.
Okay.
And so for me, again, it was like, yeah, people can always listen to it now that I've put it on streaming.
Yep.
But, it's really meant to be experienced. You're really meant to get the full interaction
Okay.
between me and the guest, because at first I started filming in person.
Yep.
So there
Yep.
was that element as well. I'm building rapport with this person. We're having a lot of organic moments. They feel very comfortable. I feel
Yeah.
very comfortable. There's still some of that when I'm filming remotely, but again, my episodes tend to lean a little bit longer,
Okay.
closer to 45 minutes. So
Yeah.
we have time
Yep.
to grow
Yep.
into that comfort level,
Yep.
So it does take a little bit longer, I think, but we still have some really good conversations.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the premise. And I think people on some of it, they miss out on that
Yeah.
human element. Like
Yeah.
there's a person behind this voice, and they probably don't look like how you think they look.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
probably are smiling more than you think they
Voice
smile.
doesn't match how you think it matches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so I don't ever plan on getting rid of it. But there's a lot of controversy about like
So much.
and there's people that don't like it. They don't
Yeah.
like that people are making video versions of their podcast, probably because it is a lot harder to make
Yeah.
and more expensive to make. But
Yep. Well, and it's funny because I relate to you because I started the conversation series as a YouTube series. I'm like, I just want to kind of talk to people, learn from people. But I also had in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, but I also want to start a podcast at the same time. Two completely different avenues that I was going down, and was thinking, okay, conversation series is going to be video series on YouTube. And then I was 10 episodes in. I was like, same as you. I was like, hold on. We've got some pretty cool people that are saying, yes, they'll come on and speak. And at the same time, I'm sitting here trying to come up with a podcast idea, and it's like, hold on, this is it right here. This
Yeah.
is, so I do the same thing. I'm like, it's a video.
Yeah.
It's a twofer.
It is
It's a
two for
twofer.
one.
Yeah.
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 But again, like being video first, the first season definitely had to work out some kinks. I'm just
Oh
gonna
yeah.
keep it a
Oh yeah.
buck. So if you go back and listen to it, it does not sound the best, but it gets
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as you learn.
Yes. We were talking about it in the very beginning, but you've kept this very local.
Hmm.
You've kept this, not a mainstream. Feeding into that, what feeds your localness for Honey and Hustle?
That was actually just by luck of nature. When I
Okay.
first did it, obviously they had to be able to travel to where I was.
Yep.
So that inherently meant local folks.
Yep.
As season 2 kind of got deeper into the pandemic, and I just kind of didn't feel as safe
Yep.
meeting in person anymore, I
Yep.
started doing it virtually, and that did open the door for people who weren't in the area to
Yep.
come on. But, immediately, even during season 2, I was already planning for season 3, and I was like, yeah, I'm ready to get
Yeah.
back in person. I'm
Yeah.
ready to get back local.
Yep.
And so I waited and until I felt, it was safer to get outside, everybody's vaccinated, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, we went back in person again, that leaned local. And I had someone on Twitter comment, they're like, hey, do you only interview North Carolina people? And my first instinct would be like, no, I interview everybody. But
Yeah.
then also it's like, no, there's a benefit to me staying local and
Absolutely.
really focusing on not just the triangle, but North Carolina as a state.
Yes.
And so hopefully we'll be doing some more in-person stuff with people all over the state
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's definitely a benefit to being local, because this is what I care about. I care about North Carolina. I
Absolutely.
care about North
Yeah.
Carolina founders. I care about where the entrepreneurial ecosystem is going and
Yeah.
growing in
Yep.
North Carolina. And I think that's a unique perspective, because any business podcast can interview anybody from
Yeah.
anywhere. What
Yeah.
makes this one special,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because I'm not getting like Shaquille O'Neal on my show. You know what I'm saying? So these local people are my Shaquille
Yeah.
O'Neal. Like, why
Yeah.
not celebrate the everyday? Why not
Yeah.
celebrate the people that are doing it? Because I think too, for people who are listening and watching, they're a lot closer to the people on my show than they are to Shaquille O'Neal.
Yep.
That's just the
Yep.
reality.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
closer to the people who are doing it every day and just like making it their life and making
Yeah.
it their income than they ever will be like some random billionaire.
Yep. Yep. I
So
love that you just said that though, because most of the time, a lot of people that I have on are not A-list celebrities. You know what I mean? They are people who are every day working their asses off, chasing their dreams,
yeah.
chasing their passions, creating their own avenues.
Yeah.
That's the things that we can more relate to
Exactly.
than Shaquille O'Neal, Kim Kardashian, whoever. Props to those people who are able to get them on, but
Yeah.
still, like, it is. I love that I have a personal aspect with people. I love that people in North Carolina will come up to me and be like, "You're Danielle," and I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely." What? And it's nice that it's local, it's here, and it's.
Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. But that's like that added benefit that I was telling you that like I
Yeah.
didn't realize I would get. It's
Yeah.
like people start to recognize you.
Absolutely.
They're like, "Oh, I listened to your show," and you're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Okay."
We're big hockey people in it, and so we were at a hockey game once, and it stunned my sister because somebody actually came up and they were like, "You're Danielle Clardy," and I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm like, do I know you? And they're like, no, but I watch your videos and I listen to your podcast. And my sister was like, they're gobsmacked. She was like, what in the world just happened?
Right?
And I'm like,
You're like
I'm
choosing
like,
so
I
hard.
don't know either, but it happened.
Yeah.
But it is funny, and I love those experiences because it's like you're getting to hear from your community,
Yeah.
and that's the best thing in the world. That's why we do some of this stuff. That's why we do. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really great.
It's beautiful. How do you approach who you're going to talk to, who you are going to speak with next, what your season's going to look like? What does that look like in Angela's mind?
Oh man, it looks like a hot mess. It looks
As it
like
probably does for everybody.
yeah.
As it probably does, yeah.
As I'm scrolling on LinkedIn or Twitter,
Oh
I get
yeah.
recommendations from people because
Yes.
sometimes people will send me recommendations. I'll put them in like an Airtable base and then
Okay.
I'll go through and like vet them and do
Yeah.
my own research on them. And
Yeah.
it's like, one, do I have enough information online that I know about this
Yeah.
person that I could ask? Are there gaps in their story?
Yeah.
Because sometimes people have been featured in press. So I'm like, are there gaps that maybe people haven't asked them about that
Yep.
I would
Yep.
like to explore? And two, like, are these people that kind of fit the mold of like North Carolina businesses? So are they
Yeah.
people that are here for the long haul, not just planting roots here so they can go somewhere else?
Yep. Yep.
Are they people that, would be interesting to hear about? And so
Yep.
that's kind of the main thing. And I guess like a fourth thing is hopefully they don't have any controversy associated with their name because I can't have you on the show. I'm
No.
sorry.
No.
But
It's
so
so difficult because then you get
yeah,
people who are your followers and you're like, "Oh,
yeah.
I don't like this." But I'm like, "Oh
Yeah,
god."
right. Or no,
Yeah.
I've had at least one person that somebody's called me about, and they're like, "Hey, this person did this, this, and this," like, and it kind of triggered me seeing them on your show, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh crap, I don't want
Yeah.
that to happen."
Yep.
So, that definitely did happen one time. So we're trying to avoid that going
Okay.
forward.
Okay.
But for season 4, like I said, we're gonna do it again in person, I hope.
Okay.
So I'm looking to have a space here in Durham that I'll be recording out of, and
Yeah.
then hopefully a space in Charlotte,
Okay.
maybe one more space in Winston-Salem.
Okay.
So trying to just get a plethora of people and then do some
Yeah.
remote stuff for maybe for people in Wilmington that I have on the list. So we're trying
Love
to
that.
just get a bigger swath because even season 3 was pretty much all Triangle people.
Yeah. Yep.
And so we're trying to branch out of that. There's more than to North Carolina than the Triangle,
Yes.
even though we don't like to admit that. But
We're elite. No, I'm kidding.
yeah. But
You're
yeah,
just
so
yeah.
I'm super excited about that. And just planning out the spaces, planning out the sets.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly having a bigger team,
Yeah.
trying to get some different locations.
Okay.
Like there's a tiki bar on the horizon, maybe. I'm not
Ooh.
gonna don't want to spoil too much. I just want to get you excited. So yeah, so planning out the different locations, planning out the different sets, possibly having crew on site with me. I
Mm,
do have an editing team, so it's getting bigger, like smaller, like little
yeah.
by little. We're trying to how can we take this to the next level? How can
Yep.
we get more people? How can we reach
Yep.
new audiences?
Yep.
How can we tell new stories?
Yeah. As you can see from my janky setup, I would love to have a crew here with me, at least one other person here with me. But you love when you start to get momentum and growth
Yeah.
to the point where you're like, okay, I do need help. Like
Yeah.
those are always great signs. They're always very daunting, I
Mhm.
feel like, but it's always great to see because then you're just bringing more people into the family. You're bringing more people into
Yeah.
what you're creating and who believe in you. And so I think I think it's a great sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the tiki bar. I want to go. I want to go to the tiki bar. I want to hop to Rootful Media
Okay.
because I did so much research on Rootful Media and who you have done projects with, what those projects were. The importance of visual storytelling
Hmm.
is the big basis of Rootful Media.
Yeah.
Can you set the stage once again for this
Hmm.
and how Rootful Media began,
Yeah.
the purpose behind it?
Yeah. So Rootful Media actually started as Ange H Studio,
Okay.
and I changed the name last year.
Okay.
And that is also reflective of the growth of the company. So
Yeah.
Ange H Studio started as me doing photo, some video,
Okay.
social media management.
Okay.
I quickly realized that was just not sustainable.
Yeah.
And I really felt like if I could specialize in photo and video, which is very rare to find
Very
in one
rare.
person, I could name my price.
Yeah.
And so then I started to kind of cut back a little bit on the social media stuff. I was like, okay, I'm not doing that
Yeah.
anymore. I'll consult, I'll help you, but like I'm not going to be the point person on that.
Yep.
And then as I got kind of further into that and started like seeing who I enjoyed working with,
Yeah.
started really thinking critically about who I wanted to work with, I kind of landed on this like social impact, environmental justice,
Yep.
outdoor
Yep.
space. Um, and that kind of led to me thinking about, okay, if I want to attract those type of companies
Yeah.
and I want to create language on my website that speaks to those type of companies,
Yep.
I need to change the name.
Yep.
And I was having some issues with the name anyway, because one, people would spell it wrong.
Yep.
So I'm like, if you spell it wrong, you're going to type it into search wrong.
I will tell you my autocorrect kept doing it to Roomful Media.
See? Yeah. So Rootful Media just felt a little more brandable. Like I
Yep.
could just say Rootful and people are like, okay,
Yep.
cool. One
Yep.
word, easy to remember, searchable. I bought the domain for rootfulmedia.com and rootfulmedia.co in case people mess it up.
Yes.
And I really started to like lean into like Android Studio was more of a
Yeah.
blue, gray, white, black. Rootful Media is more of a green
Yes. Yeah.
green and green color palette. So
Yeah.
really leaning into that like greenery,
Yep.
outdoor, environmental stuff
Yep.
with the branding, with the name, with the copy, with the intention, and with
Yeah.
the organizations that I work with. So working with East Coast Greenway Alliance has been
Yep.
great. Working on a Senate campaign has been great.
Yep.
Working just in the outdoor space in general has been really, really amazing, and I'm really excited to see where we can take it next.
I love that. And your projects are really, once again, community based.
Mhm.
They're really beautiful projects too that bring out a lot of feeling and awareness to what is happening. How have you connected, your videography with the community, with the combination of your passion for also public health and
Mhm.
all of, have you brought this all together? What does that look like?
Right now it looks like me pursuing some original film projects.
Okay.
So mostly, I would say up until this point, Rootful Media has been all client focused.
Yeah.
Have not created outside of Honey and Hustle, have not created any original documentary film
Yep.
projects. So we're trying to change that this year. We've started on one, documenting the PFAS water contamination
Okay.
in Eastern North
Okay.
Carolina. So that's obviously an environmental issue. That's a
Yeah.
health equity
Yep.
issue. That's an access issue.
Yep.
And so we're really hoping to do some amazing things with that. We have a few others on the horizon. I don't know if I want to spill all the details, but
Don't spill
okay.
them quite
So,
yet.
but they kind of span the spectrum. The other thing I was noticing was that I wasn't doing, in terms of environment, right? I
Yep.
feel like there's kind
Yeah.
of three buckets. There's like your renewable energy, clean
Yep.
energy, that kind of ties into climate a little bit,
Yeah.
and then there's like your or all of it ties into climate, let's be clear. But and then there's like your farming, agriculture, food sustainability,
Yep.
and then there's like your outdoor access, outdoor
Yeah.
recreation. So those
Yep.
three buckets, right? So far I've only been in like the farming, sustainability, and like the outdoor access, and I really wanted to get into some clean energy storytelling.
Okay.
So we have one that's centered on that. I won't
Yeah.
say the premise of it, but it's on clean energy. So we're
Okay.
trying to span the gamut of environmental
Yep.
space. And then I guess I feel motivated because I'm right off the heels of a short film release called Changing Gears,
Yeah.
featuring Urban Cycling Group out of Richmond, Virginia. So
Yep.
we feel like we have some momentum. I have a proof of concept that I can see a project through
I
from
love
beginning to
that.
end. And that was an original concept that I did in collaboration with some organizations. But yeah, we're excited to do some self-produced projects. Yeah.
Much like how you do Honey and Hustle, but two very different avenues.
Hmm.
How does that mind work? How do you take the podcast and the video podcast
Hmm.
out of your mind and approach an original project like the
Yeah.
ones you're doing?
Original projects are a little bit harder,
Yep.
because you have to have a lot of knowledge of people on the ground
Yeah.
and have it involves more of a community organizing
Yep.
aspect, right? So
Yep.
instead of one to one, it's one to many. So learning about like the political landscape, learning about the local
Yep.
landscape, would people be willing to talk to us?
Yep.
Do the organizations we want to feature have the capacity to speak with us and help us find people who would be willing to speak on camera? It's a lot bigger of a lift, and I would say, the PFAS water contamination project, we started just thinking about it
Yeah.
October of last year, and we didn't
Okay.
start filming until this spring. So it's a
Okay.
lot longer of a process too, from beginning to
Yep.
end for a
Yep.
short film project. And I think Urban Cycling Group, it was almost a year and a half between
Wow.
first reach out to final premiere. So a lot more of a longer lifespan. You get to
Yeah.
know these people very well because you're having a lot of communication
Yep.
with them. So it's definitely a lot deeper of a connection. It can be a lot more taxing of a connection, but a lot more meaningful of a connection.
Okay.
So, and not to say that my relationships with my guests on Honey and Hustle aren't meaningful, but
Yeah.
end to end from first reach out to episode premiere, it's a lot short of a lifespan for
Right.
them,
Right.
and I'm working on ways to, keep people in the fold and keep them
Yeah.
engaged with the show, previous guests. But again, it's a lot lighter of a touch. I don't
Yeah.
have to talk to them as much.
Yep.
So
Yep. This might sound like a really dumb question, but I'm going to ask it so other people know.
yeah.
But what do you do with these original projects? Where did they go after you've completed them? How do people
Yeah.
digest them, watch them, etc.?
That is an incredible question. I'm so
Okay.
glad you asked. So I think right now there's this big emphasis on social video, right?
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get away from social video.
Yeah.
I really want my projects to have life. Like when you think about, movies, when you think about Hulu, when you think
Yeah.
about,
Streaming.
film festivals.
Yes.
Yeah, like think about
Yes.
the
Yeah.
lifespan of those projects and
Yes.
how long people remember them. And it's not because they saw them on social. Maybe they see the trailer, but the
Yeah.
movie and the experience they have and like
Yep.
the impact on them it has so much bigger than social media.
Yep.
And so we've been trying to get away from that with our original projects.
Okay.
Urban Cycling Group, we did an in-person film screening
Okay.
before we released it on YouTube. So
Okay.
super excited about that. That
That's
was
awesome.
nerve-wracking
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
being in the same room because again, like when you're putting something on a social, you can just like press publish and then walk away.
Don't have to look
Versus
at it.
exactly, you don't have
Yeah.
to look or
Yeah.
see anybody else's reactions when they see it.
Yeah.
But when you're in the room during a film screening,
Oh yeah.
you're
Yeah.
hearing all the things, you're seeing all the things, you're
Laughing,
like,
crying, whatever it is. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
people disinterested, people like totally checked out on their phone, like, you see
Yeah.
all of it. Not that that happened at mine. Um, but you just see everything, you notice
Yeah.
everything, and you feel so much more self-conscious. You see things in the video, you're like,
Yeah.
man, I should change that, man, I wish I looked better,
Yes.
man, like
Yes.
you're still
I
self-critiquing.
I still will go back and I say this and I'll go back and watch my YouTube videos through my own channel. Like in the YouTube screen, I'm like, shit,
Yeah.
like you can see the black around the like
Yeah.
I didn't put it over.
Yeah.
It's
It's
the
like you're
perfectionist.
still striving for
Yes.
perfection.
Yeah.
And so that's nerve-wracking,
Yep.
but it's been good. I
Okay.
think the agreement that I made with the organization that I'm partnering with on the PFAS water contamination was to do some in-person film screenings and to do a
Love that.
film festival circuit with it. So
That's
super
awesome.
excited for that. Super excited to get people off social, get people in person,
Yep.
and really facilitate some more conversations around the work
Yeah.
that we're doing.
Yeah. It reminds me because I've been, Mission Impossible's coming out.
Hmm.
They've been doing all the press for it. And one of the things that I love is Tom Cruise saying, my movies are meant to be seen in movie theaters. They're not meant for streaming and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And it kind of, once again, it takes it off of the social aspect and it's go sit your butt in a
Yeah.
seat,
Yeah.
in a
Focus.
movie seat and actually watch on the big screen. I think
Hmm.
that is a massive thing. Like as we were kids,
Yeah.
that's how you went to go see a movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't be mad. Or it's like a Disney premiere where you saw it at home, but you saw it on like the big screen in the
Yeah.
living room. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? It wasn't like on your
Yes.
phone or on your
Yes.
laptop. And so, yeah, I think there's something to be said for how we watch
Yeah.
things and who we're with when we watch them.
Yeah.
Like, are we alone? Are we as a
Yes.
group? Are we in a movie
Yeah.
theater? And I think we're getting back to that because we're realizing like, hey, social media could be gone in a second.
Oh yeah.
Like, what are we doing that's going to have a
Yeah.
lasting impact that we don't have to keep recreating every
Yeah.
day, every
Yeah.
2 seconds,
It's a tradition of my sister and I's and we go always go to the late nights. So we'll do like the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock movies and we'll go and we'll sit in the very back.
Hmm.
And I just one instance is that we went the second Mamma Mia. We grew up with Mamma Mia.
Okay.
Nobody else in the theater. We were up in the back row just dancing like
Yeah.
freaking fools. But that's the cool part.
Yeah.
You are experiencing that on a very large screen
Yeah.
and enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like it's a different feeling.
Yeah. And I think one thing that was beautiful about the Urban Cycling Group screening and that is going to continue, I think, to be more prevalent
I love that.
is when we did it in a brewery that just so happened to have a projector screen.
Awesome.
So it was like in this really unique space
Yeah.
and beautiful space. And
Yeah.
I think like I've been to a friend's, they did a rough cut premiere
Okay.
in Cary, here in Cary.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, at the Cary Theater.
Okay, okay.
So like smaller venues like that, you know what I'm
Yes,
saying? I think it
yeah.
was maybe like a 300 cap venue, 200 cap venue,
That's
older
awesome.
theater. It gives you that like old school feel,
Yeah.
And then they had like a Q&A panel right after. So it was just like, how can we bring different elements to the filmmaking
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah.
How can we bring community to that? And I think that's what we're going to continue to see more of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask what your style of video is with Rootful Media. Are you a are you black and white? Are you like what is your style and feel?
I think about this constantly, because I have
I'm
never
glad
been
to have
able.
drudged up some feelings for you here.
I don't know, because I've had people tell me like, "Yeah, I like your style." And I'm like, there's some part of me that wants to go, "What's my
Can you
style
tell me what that
exactly?"
is?
Yes, right. I'm like, "What is it? Tell me, please."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I obviously I'm a documentary filmmaker, so
Yeah.
there's that aspect of it. But that could be so many things. I
Yeah.
really don't know. I use some lighting. Not all of it is like run and gun stuff,
Yep. Yep.
but I honestly can't tell you. I try to be a nice balance of like raw
Yeah.
and like finesse. So it's not gonna look like
Yeah.
sloppy. I don't
Yeah.
things like things to be overly shaky, but I'm also not the person that uses a gimbal on every shot. I'm also
Yeah.
not the person that uses a tripod on every shot. So there's a good mix.
Yeah.
And again, like if you've seen my interview formats with Honey and Hustle, it's a
Yep.
similar format. Like
Yeah.
people generally feel pretty comfortable talking with me. I'm gonna ask some questions that maybe they don't always feel comfortable answering,
Yeah.
but they will anyway
Yeah.
because it's necessary. And I think that, I try to give people the space to just be who they are
Yep.
and whatever that means. Like there's no expectation for me to do or say anything in particular. So,
Yes.
in terms of my style, I really can't say I'm not an overly produced style,
Okay.
but it's still a finesse. It's still going to be a
Yeah.
complete piece. And that's as close as I
Yeah.
can get to describing my
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great though. I mean, it's I don't like to be one thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people a
Mm,
lot of people say that,
mm,
but I like to be I people ask me all the time, they're like, "What do you do videos on?" I'm like, "I do everything."
okay.
I'm like, I love to be able to just take people along for the journey.
Yeah.
That's the fun part is just come along
Yeah.
and see what happens.
Yeah.
There will be some things, but just come along.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much a real, you're part of the family. You're
Yeah.
going to see some really real comments from my crazy family when I am with them. That's
Yeah.
just what I tell everybody. I'm like, here you go.
Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome to
Yeah.
the family and the journey. That's what I say every time to everybody too.
Yeah.
But just what inspires you?
I get inspired by the creators constantly. I
Yeah.
know there's like this thing like create more than you consume.
Yep.
I probably do a decent balance of both if we're
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
honest. And then it's like, do we also include Netflix binges and
Yeah,
consuming?
I'm
Like,
like,
I don't know.
what
What
is
is,
the balance we're looking at here?
like, so yeah, I love watching like other indie creators like on
Okay.
YouTube and
Okay.
watching their little
Yeah.
short film projects or like camera test projects.
Yep.
I think a lot of that really inspires me. I like watching just shorter series like Music Bed has a really good
Yeah.
one. And I love their podcast. So
Okay.
they have a video podcast now,
Yeah.
but I love watching stuff like that. I love getting ideas from other creators, different angles, different shots I want to
Yeah.
try, things that I can apply to my own
Yep.
editing style or creative style, interview style,
Yeah.
anything. I love watching that. And that goes for Honey and Hustle too. I watch Zane Lowe's interviews a lot,
Yep.
Ebro Darden, Rap Radar, a lot of video podcasts like that.
Very cool.
To get different
Yeah.
perspective on how people approach questioning, because if you'll notice, I never have I've even from day one I've never written down questions for any
Okay.
guest,
Okay.
and people think that's weird. They're like, well, how do you know how to
Oh,
ask
I'd
people
love
stuff?
if I could.
And so and it's like I don't know, that's just like my natural propensity,
Yeah.
but it's like I want to get better at that,
Yep.
even because
Yeah.
even in season one I would like get stopped in the middle of an interview. I
Yeah.
obviously edited it out so you don't know,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
I would just like be like, crap, I forgot what I was gonna ask. I was so
Yeah.
involved in listening.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just been like that's my style and that's what I
Yeah.
want to lean into more,
Yeah.
in every aspect. So just learning from other people and growing
Yeah.
and that sort of thing.
I'm very much, I was the same way in the beginning. Even if you look at the questions I had written down for you, it was like buckets. It was like Honey and Hustle,
Mm-hmm.
Rootful Media.
Yeah.
I always ask this last question, what inspires you? Because it's so different. It's different based on every single person.
Yeah.
But I used to have questions upon questions. And I'm like, it didn't allow me to have a genuine reaction or a genuine, like, if you had said something, I wouldn't have gone deeper with you on
Right.
it. And that's what I found. I'm like,
Because you're so busy listening for them to
yes,
stop so you can ask the next
yes.
question that you're not like, oh shoot, they asked something that maybe I didn't have on my list that I
Yeah.
should ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that too because I do a lot of watching as well because I'm like, if somebody asks a question, I'm like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, I love watching because I just enjoy hearing other people's questions, but
Yeah.
also I enjoy the answers that people give because those, even for me, are so thought provoking.
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoy. Like Jay Shetty's podcast, I absolutely
Mm.
love his because he does have Shaquille O'Neal, the
Yeah, he
people like
does.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's very interesting where the conversations lead
Mm-hmm.
because you're not expecting him to talk to celebrities the way he is
Mm.
and to be talking about some of the things he does. So it's very interesting to me
Yeah.
how conversations go and
Yeah.
where they lead to. I think it's so interesting to me.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. This is a great avenue to do it in. What are you looking forward to for this year? I know we're, by the way, halfway through.
We are. We are. We're over halfway through. Um, I what am I looking forward to? That's a great question. I'm looking forward to more collaborative pieces.
Okay.
I've been working with some local filmmakers and drone
Nice.
ops and audio people, and I'm
Yeah.
really hoping to, put together a crew for a couple of the projects that I'm
Love
working
that.
on.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm super excited. I feel like things just get better when you have good collaborators.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Creative Architects to be released early August. Be on the
Okay.
lookout. I'm
Let's
excited
go.
for possibly putting out a photo book this year based on my
Okay.
travels in Spain and on the Camino
Okay.
de Santiago.
How beautiful.
So yeah, I think there will be some fun, creative things coming from Rootful Media this year for
Love that.
sure. Yeah,
Love that.
yeah,
I love that it's just not one thing,
right,
too.
yeah,
It's so many, and that's what I love. I'm like, you can just do so many different creative things, but I think people shut themselves down to
yeah,
things that they're just so they can focus on. Like,
yeah,
do what you love. Go
yeah,
do what you want to do.
yeah,
Don't let people tell you no, and just go do it.
yeah,
Well, I'm very excited to listen to the new podcast and continue to listen to Honey and Hustle.
yeah.
I can't thank you for being here and having this conversation with me. And
I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad we were able to do this in person. But if you guys do not follow Angela, Rootful Media, Honey and Hustle,
Yeah,
it is all going to be linked down below so you guys can go listen, watch, whatever you want to do. But I can't wait to see what comes out this year and very excited for you.
yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yes, and
it.
as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.